Another high-profile person enters court to plead not guilty. Earlier today, former National Security Advisor President Trump in his first term and former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, walked into the federal courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland. He has been indicted on 18 counts related to the mishandling of classified information. The indictment charges Bolton with 8 counts of transmission of national defense information. It also charges Bolton with 10 counts of unlawful retention of that information. According to the indictment, Bolton, quote, abused his position as National Security Advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information about his day-to-day activities as a National Security Advisor, including information relating to the national defense, which was classified up to the top secret SCI level with 2 unauthorized individuals, namely individuals 1 and 2. Bolton also unlawfully retained documents, writings, and notes relating to the national defense, including information classified up to the top secret SCI level, and then in his home in Montgomery County, Maryland, end quote. Bolton's lawyer is Abby Lowell, and that name may sound familiar. Lowell is the same lawyer who represented Hunter Biden in his tax and gun charges case, and he has also represented Ivanka and Jared Kushner. Lowell says Bolton did nothing wrong. He told the Associated Press that Bolton, quote, did not unlawfully share or store any information. Lowell also said underlying facts in this case were investigated and resolved years ago, end quote. Bolton has pled not guilty to the charges, and a reminder, an indictment is not proof. Former federal prosecutor Joseph Moreno joins me. Joe, another one. Classified documents, a little bit different, but we've had Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Mike Pence, Joe Biden, former president, and President Trump.
Look, there's a trend. When I joined the Army as a first lieutenant and got my first security clearance, or when I was a line prosecutor at the Justice Department and you get that clearance and you're told what is allowed and what is not allowed, you follow those rules. And so when you see these very senior people seemingly play a little fast and loose with the rules about where documents are supposed to go, what kinds of notes they're supposed to take, and who they're supposed to share information with, you kind of say, Mike, how does it get like the point where they seem so willing to just kind of forego the rules? Now, again, it's not proof. I did notice from the indictment of Ambassador Bolton that it talks about documents describing certain information. So it doesn't sound like the FBI went to his home and picked up documents with markings on them. The case is going to be about whether Bolton's notes contained classified information from documents that were themselves classified. Still could be a problem for him, but it's not going to be a slam dunk case.
It talks about individual 1 and 2, and it says at one point relatives, and he is married. He does have a daughter, and so my guess is that he doesn't have any other children, that 1 and 2 might be his wife and his child. As you sat down, I told you that I probably interviewed John Bolton. He's my foreign policy expert. The whole time I was at another network at Fox, I've interviewed him, I don't know how many, hundreds of times. The same as, I always say that President Trump, my business expert, and John Bolton, Ambassador Bolton, was my foreign expert that I've interviewed them the most. And neither one of them, in my mind, ever would do anything to hurt the country. Bolton, he's just, he might just be really sloppy, like the rest of them.
Well, in the indictment, it even points out several instances where Ambassador Bolton made public statements about the importance of preserving classified information and what you can and can't do about it. He even said something like, if I did what a certain former Secretary of State did, I would be in jail right now. So he obviously...
It's like they take dumb pills. It's like, why do they, how could they be so stupid? Now, he had what's called a SCIF at his home, so it makes sense he'd bring materials, a SCIF being something that the government built for him so that everything would be secure. So it makes sense that he would have documents at home. But they should have been returned. I don't know if they were not at the conclusion. The
SCIF was decommissioned in 2019 when he left the role of National Security Advisor. So he did not have a secure facility for the last 6 years. And as part of the litigation that Abby Lowell referred to in your intro, part of the deal was that Bolton said, okay, and this is 2021, I have no classified information in my possession. I've turned over anything that I may have had. So he's on the record as saying, okay, look, as of at least 2021, I've got nothing. So if the prosecutors are now going to say he's got something, it's going to make him look like not too good.
Unless, of course, and it's just hypothetical, because it talks about emails. And it sounds like, maybe he emailed something, some information to either individual 1 or 2, in which case he might not have the physical document, but he did at some particular time do this. But as you note, is that we don't even know if it's classified.
Well, and that's what the case is going to come down to. Again, it's not going to be an obvious case of boxes of documents with top secret or other markings on it. It's going to be his notes about, and whether or not he sanitized them, he redacted them, he dumbed them down to a point where they were so vague, they were no longer considered derivative classified information. So if we were talking about a particular military operation, let's say it's Afghanistan or something like that, it's in the past, and instead of saying Afghanistan, you say country X. And you know what that is, but if someone read it, they would have no idea what it is. So if you're really vague in terms of taking your own notes, maybe you can make the argument was, look, this may have started as classified, but I've made it summarized so generally that you wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of it, only I understand it. That's what it's going to come down to. And it's not a slam dunk for the prosecution because Bolton's a smart guy.
He's a very smart guy, and he knows the rules, so it's really hard for me to think that he would violate the rules. It's easier for me to think that the FBI didn't like him because he's sort of prickly and not a warm and fuzzy guy.
Well, now we're getting into the trend of whether or not we're seeing some vindictive prosecutions here, because I've been very critical. I think that the case against James Comey is really weak. I mean, you read the indictment, it's hard to even understand what he's actually being charged with.
Except, you know what the problem with Comey is? I was thinking to myself, if I were trying this, what I would do is, because they've got to show the intent that they intended to lie under oath. And the problem is, I cannot get over the fact that right after he was fired in 2017, not the first thing, but maybe a day or two later, is he took some notes and he sent them to a law professor at Columbia to then launder them through him to leak to the New York Times. This doesn't sound like a clean guy. And I realize that intent would have to be of the statements he's charged with. But I walk into that courtroom thinking, why are you sneaking around so much?
He has a terrible history of leaking to the media, and he made that horrendous lapse in judgment during the 2016 campaign, going on camera and basically trying to prove Hillary Clinton's innocence to the public, basically to help her win.
That was in July. But then he said that weird thing in October. He suggested that documents are found on Huma Abedin's ex-husband's laptop. I mean, he's been all over the place on that.
So far beyond what's appropriate for an FBI director to do. And so he has shown horrendously poor judgment. Doesn't mean it's a crime, and I think the indictment against Comey is extremely poorly done. The Letitia James case, that just seems petty. I can see the case being put together. I can also see a defense that she's got. So neither one of those are slam dunks. Neither is this Bolton case. It's serious, no doubt. But again, he's a smart guy, and if he can argue like, look, these are notes that I made of my own recollections, and I modified them in a way that only I understand what they are, and if they were leaked, or if he was hacked, which also the indictment says he was hacked by an Iranian-backed individual, well, even they wouldn't make heads or tails of what I had.
See, I think a lot of people already decide these cases whether they like the person or not, whether they're skins or shirts, Republicans or Democrats, so they decide that. But when push comes to shove and you actually have to try them, when you see the difficulty, the flaws in the case, and you understand that these are not particularly slam dunk cases for the prosecution, they have flaws, I take sort of the long view and think, does the Trump administration want to lose these cases? Because they'll look really bad if they lose them. Which brings me to the point, which nobody agrees with me, is since these are weak cases on the surface, I would pardon them to say, let's end lawfare. These are bad people, or whatever he wants to say. I would do that, but nobody agrees with me on that.
Well, I would do that too, to show that you're the bigger person.
Yes, but knowing that you might lose the case down the road.
Well, the first thing I thought, too, was, well, why are these cases so weak? Trump's going to look so bad if the cases don't go well. But then I'm thinking, I'm not sure he really cares.
Well, he might not, but the thing is that well, I think he wants to beat them. I don't think he wants to lose against them.
I think half the battle is just putting them through what he went through.
Well, so he waits to pardon them. He waits,
or he just
a year.
He lets the chips fall as they may. They're going to have to hire lawyers. It's expensive. It drags them through the mud. And he knows very well because he went through it himself. Facing a litany of terrible cases.
See, I would not run the risk of this verdict. I would not run that risk.
Donald Trump is a risk taker, though, and things that you or I might not do, and that's perhaps where he is.
He come out ahead. Ahead. He's the guy. First of all, he would get his pound of flesh, right? He gets his pound of flesh. He doesn't lose the cases, right? And he looks like the big person is stopping lawfare, because that's what the Democrats call this, is lawfare, so that the Democrats, should they get the White House or the Senate or the House to the Senate and start investigating the Republicans, they look pretty bad, because Trump has ended lawfare.
Maybe you're predicting the long game here, because, again, Donald Trump is consistently underestimated. He is a remarkable politician.
He's not trying his cases, though.
Probably not. He's probably kind of airing it to say, this is what I could do if I really wanted to, but at the end of the day, he absolutely might take the advice that you're giving him, and maybe he should.
I don't know. Anyway, I was a pretty good lawyer when I practiced. Anyway, Joseph Moreno, thank you very much.
Brett.
Always nice to see you.